they match like alpha and omega. So obviously these two kind of connect. And the overall...
Of course, people have association with those two words on the internet.
Contain yourself.
Quack.
Welcome to the Little Duck Book Club with Duck number 1.
Wren and Duck number 2.
Ada. And today we're here with a bit of a special episode. Crescent City comes out in a couple of days by the time that we have uploaded this video. And we wanted to talk about something, or at least I wanted to talk about something, and I roped you into it, about all the theories going around on the internet. Because by now, Sarah J. Maas has created such an extensive piece of work that people have begun to turn into scholars of this medium, which is crazy.
I love that you said like piece of work in the way I would say piece of shit.
No, we gotta remain impartial here. So I collected some theories. A lot of the TikToks I found on this are from Emily's Theories, who I hold in the highest regards. I think she crazy in a good way. Knows every single word in and out, has watched every single stream, knows every single Instagram post from Sarah J. Maas. I was astonished, and I picked out some of the most interesting theories, in my opinion. Also found some on Reddit that I thought might be interesting, and some of them overlap because they've turned into more of like a headcanon thing, with some textual evidence. And yeah, I made a tier list for you. Because if you know, Wren did not read the Crescent City books.
I did not. I was like, Act War was so bad, I am not reading more of this. It's not good.
And which makes this whole thing even more fun, I guess. But yeah, preparation for today, Wren became a scholar themselves.
By which we mean I watched some videos trying to explain the plot of Crescent City 1 and 2 to me, and I'm like, okay. I literally wrote you like, I think I kind of get it. I'm still confused about the lore though, but I think that's the normal experience. I forgot to tell you could just have watched our world building SJ Maas video, because I think the last hour of that is just me trying to explain it to you. And I remember back then you also lost your mind listening to me. Yeah, because it's fucking stupid.
So, yeah. You can see the tiers. The worst one is just no. So if you feel like no. This just you can't wrap your head around it, that's your tier. Then we have agree to disagree, where you say it's all right. It's not really. You don't see it. Then the good hardworking honestly this could work tier. The unhinged but I like it. And the last one is PhD in the Maasiverse. This is the grand prize, the moment where you have to admit that this person went in on it.
I am low key hoping that there is gonna be a theory including Adis, because he is my favorite, because he is a cat boy and I love cat boys.
Well, he's in it in terms of being a little bit obnoxious. There is one where he's in it, but yeah. Ooh. You just pick the theory that you want to start with, and I have my nifty little sheet. By the way, all of the TikToks or the sources I found, we're gonna link them for you so you can look at them yourself. And yeah, let's
start with Hunt, followed by 5 question marks.
Okay. That one.
Because I'm like, I think we know who Hunt is, but now I have questions.
Well, this one was named in relating to another theory, but mainly with the overall theme that Sarah J. Maas never has the main character get together and stay together with the first love interest in any of her books. So people have been wondering, so whether are, like, there's an array of theories what could happen with Bryce, who would be the new mate. People have been wondering, well, but, you know, well, what happens with Hunt? Because right now they're happy together.
I mean, yeah, they're already mates, right? Like, everyone's already like, oh yeah, you're
so there's
meant to be together. So I feel like it would be hard to pull it here, right? Like...
So this one theory, or this one TikTok kind of tried to combine different theories. It's by Emily, our scholar. And she saw that in an interview, SJ Maas said the worst thing that could happen to Hunt would be if he got his slave tattoo put back on, which actually does happen by the end of Crescent City 2. But Emily deduces that's not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing could happen is that he becomes the next shell for Regalis. And now I have to ask you, do you know who Regalis is? Do you remember?
He is one of the, like, Asteri.
Yes.
And they found, like, his power bank and it was, like, at 60% power or whatever. They were like, wow, his battery is not entirely full. He's not playing with a full deck.
Regalis is the Asteri that sits on the throne. And when they find him sitting on the throne in Crescent City 2, they see that he's, like, being charged up by the first light power, right? And Emily has observed that Hunt also has the power to absorb first light, which we see in the book as well. So you could argue that Regalis could use Hunt to kind of tap into that storage of first light, so that he has like a... Your power bank metaphor was kind of good. So that he has his own vessel running around as a power bank, because he doesn't need the throne to charge up anymore. He can use Hunt's like ability to charge up on the first light. And since there are so many theories of the connection of Bryce to Queen Theia, do you remember? Yeah, okay, you remember that, who she is? Meaning she's the biggest threat to Regalis. He might use the thing that she loves against her. You know, she would kill that guy in a heartbeat, but would she kill him if he was in Hunt's body? We don't know. And an additional thing that popped up quite a lot in this regard was that Hunt's real name is Orion, and in mythology, Orion gets killed by his lover Artemis. There's some versions where she kills him without knowing it's him, so it's like a little bit of a subversion going on. But yeah, in any kind of iteration where a character is called Orion, they're being killed by their lover. And the Oracle tells him to keep well away from Bryce Quinlan, which could mean, you know, she's gonna kill you, keep away, please. Also, the brightest star in the Orion constellation is Rigo, so there might be a connection there. So that's...
I will say, I'm still like, wow, Regalis, but what an angelic name. Real angel sounding name.
I mean, wait, I have a little bit of a overview here of all their names. We've got Hesperus, the Evening Star, Polaris, North Star, Eosphoros, Octartus, Austrus, Sirius, who was killed, and Regalis.
I love this because it's like, you know, some of the angels have like, not their original like Hebrew names, but like the anglicized Hebrew names that angels have in Christian mythology. And then we just have somewhere it's like, just name them after just give them random names. It's fine.
Just something that sounds smart.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, that's basically one of the many what might happen to Hunt theories, and I thought it was quite interesting to say, oh, maybe he turns into the vessel of Regalis.
I will say, I think it's kind of interesting, but I will also say, I don't know. I mean, it is the first one we're doing, so
you can still...
I don't know how to slot it in, because I don't have a line of comparison quite yet what the others are like. But I also feel like that's probably not I feel like that doesn't have the Sarah J. Maas vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, we haven't really gotten this kind of thing. Like, every time we had something where somebody controlled somebody else's body, it's more in a, like... It's not... Let's put it... It was usually in a kind of, like, heterosexual, like, torture kind of scenario. Like, we think about Urian, or we think about, like... Rowan and, like, the Wolf Boys in The Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
Like, it's always been, like... It's not been in this kind of context, and also not in the using somebody else's body directly context. So, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't have the Sarah J. Maas flavor. You know what I mean? He already has, like, all the slavery and torture and stuff, which... She loves putting on her boys. She's like, you know what a love interest needs?
Torture.
A tattoo with tragic backstory and getting tortured, preferably by a woman who's evil. Like, literally every time.
That's... Oh my god. Wow, that's another kink I didn't realize she had. Okay.
Okay.
I'd say right at the end, when you've sorted all the theories, you're allowed to switch them through.
I'm gonna put it to agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
I'm like, I don't think it's stupid, but I also feel like it's too much planning and practical use of, like, things she's set up before to make sense in the Massiverse. I feel like it needs to be more unhinged. Yeah. To be something where I'm like, yeah, this sounds like
this
Sarah
could happen.
Okay.
All right. What's the next one?
Let's go with Argonautica. I have no idea what this means.
Listen, this is a long one. There's a Crescent City subreddit called r/Crescent City SJM, like without any space in between. And somebody 2 days ago, so by the time this video is up, it's like 9 days, somebody wrote, theory, Crescent City is the Argonautica, Bryce is Medea, and Hunt is Jason. This person has a PhD in ancient Greek literature, heavily focusing on the Iliad, Odyssey, and Argonautica, and they read the books for the first time, and they would like to share their thoughts, how they think that SJM is clearly heavily influenced by Greek myth, and a lot of these are less well-known, and she would like to, they would like to lay it out. Yeah. So, first thing, Peleus. From the Greek myth, he's Jason's uncle, who usurped the throne, which leads the poster to believe that the updated version of the story is that he usurped Theia, and that his name is a hint to the usurping all along. Then in the mythology, Peleus tells Jason that he can have the throne back if he accomplishes the quest for the Golden Fleece. All the Percy Jackson girlies, that's book 2, to get a magical object. And that's similar to the horn. Hunt is being told to get the horn by Micah to get his freedom, the same way that Jason has to get the Golden Fleece. So both Jason and Hunt have to work together with a beautiful princess to accomplish that quest. In this sense, Medea is Bryce, the beautiful princess, and Hunt has the Triarii, so his buddies, and Jason has the Argonauts. Now, they argue that most scholars agree that Medea and the Golden Fleece are intertwined. Jason cannot take the fleece without Medea, and they are often described in similar terms and treated as one. And here they deduce, just like Bryce becomes one with the horn. If you remember, Bryce has the horn to toot in her back. Now, the family of Medea, similar to Bryce and the Autumn King, they are all connected through fire imagery. The Autumn King has the fire powers in the Fae world. And they are descendants of Helios, god of the sun. And Bryce, or Helios' mother, is the Titan Theia, who's, shining sun, moon stuff. In a simple way, a similar way that Bryce, is connected and possibly the descendant of Theia because she has the Starborn powers. And Medea is also connected to Artemis in a lot of mythology. And we just covered who Artemis is connected in mythology to Orion because she kills him because he's a lover. So that's another connection that they made. And then Poster writes that Bryce reminds her of Medea because they're both princesses, because Bryce is the princess of the Autumn Court, and that Medea is viewed as a barbarian in the Greek world, just like Bryce is kind of viewed as an outcast because she's half human, half breed, and both of the fathers are antagonists in each of the stories, which also kind of connects them again together. And the last point in this bigger text of theirs is that the Argonautica, just like the Odyssey, can be viewed as a tale of exploring other worlds because, they sail beyond what the Greek would count as the world and encounter mythical things and beings. And that's just kind of, reminiscent to what's happening in the Crescent City world. But yeah, they have a couple of other points here. That is kind of trying to guess what might happen in the future. For example, it says that Jason kills Medea's brother, which would mean that Hunt kills Rune in the book. Then Jason is compared to Sirius in the Argonautica because Sirius foreshadows death. This could mean that, it's a sign of Hunt's connection to the dead Astari, Sirius. There's theories that Hunt is a mysterious breed of Fae, so that would make him kind of connected, just like Jason is the connection to Peleus. And then the final antagonist is Talos, a giant who is killed by Medea's magic. I've got kind of also play into it. Bryce hopefully defeats the Astari with her own magic. Plus, by the end, Medea doesn't return to her original world. Colchis, Double C, which sounds like Crescent City. So yeah, somebody clearly decided to use their hard-earned PhD to lay all of this out for us. How Crescent City is just in quotation marks, a Greek tragedy.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, I do respect it, but my first thought when you were like, oh, they're like a classics major, they've studied this extensively, is like, guy who's only seen Boss Baby sees another movie and is like, wow, this is giving me strong Boss Baby vibes.
You're so mean. Like, you promised me not to.
Be mean. I respect that somebody put so much thought into it, but I also feel like, I respect that there's a lot of unhinged theory crafting in this. Mm-hmm. It's cool, but I will also say, I respect that this person knows so much about Greek myth, but I can't respect that they haven't clued in that Sarah doesn't, and therefore none of this could possibly be on purpose. You know what I
mean? This person was too smart for what we know to be true.
Yeah, they were like, I'm connecting the dots, and it's like, true, you can connect these dots. However, please know that this woman drew them like while not looking at the page, so whatever picture you get by connecting them is an accident at most.
That's honestly one of my favorite points of discussion that I saw while looking also at comments and TikToks and stuff, was the dichotomy of people saying Sarah J. Maas does nothing by accident, and others going, dude, she can't even keep eye colors.
I was about to say, didn't she fuck up on the eye color?
I know, she gaslit me with Rune's eye color. I want this to be known, okay? Rune's eyes are described as like a blue, bright, ice cold blue, and there is a lot of fan art from when the first Crescent City book came out of Rune having blue eyes. And I'm reading Crescent City 2, right at the end of it, Bryce goes, "Oh my god, this recent guy looks just like Rune, down to his violet eyes." I was like, wait,
that's not true.
What? And then suddenly fan arts were popping up with Rune having like violet pinkish eyes. I was like, this is not real. So I went to my copy of Crescent City, I looked it up, and apparently this is an issue where the color violet in Sarah J. Maas's terms sometimes means the flower violet and sometimes means the literal color violet, purple, pink, whatever. And she just uses them interchangeably to her whim.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, any color has like a huge spectrum, especially if it's just like a collective term. Like you can say somebody has blue eyes and they could range from, you know, or almost turquoise to like deep blue that's almost violet. Because it like, but it's also like, clearly this was not thought out before. And I am also like, anyone who's read Throne of Glass knows many things were not thought out from the beginning. Like, let's not pretend that Sarah J. Maas thinks these things through super well. I do respect the classic scholars, so I'm putting this in the PhD version. Because I do respect it.
The person does have a PhD.
Think that's a lot of thought, and if we are looking at the Sarah J. Maas Extended Universe and pretend we believe it is inherently coherent with itself and that the information we've gotten is actually not contradictory, but there are explanations for everything, I think this slots in well. Yeah. If you consider it, but it's but I will also say I respect your knowledge of the classics. I would ask you to consider that Sarah J. Maas does not share this knowledge of the classics and therefore cannot apply it. That's all I'm saying. This woman looks at like the first few lines of a Wikipedia page for anything and is like, I know everything I need to know. I'll make up the rest by myself.
Oh man. Okay, next one.
Okay. It's been staring at me like accusatory. Rhys is a Valg. I'm like, no, this is stupid. Whoever's saying this, I don't agree.
Let me find this. Okay. So, the reason why Rhys is Valg, and in, like, extension of this, Rune could be too, is because their appearances match. Eyes and hair, in terms of dark hair, violet eyes. Both Rhys and the Valg have darkness powers. They all have mind reading powers, and especially Rhys and Maeve are described as eerily similar in the books in terms of, okay, all right, they don't just have black hair, they have raven black hair. They don't just have the violet eyes, they have like with the same kind of like the same adjectives.
Maeve doesn't have violet eyes. I think they're just black. I think in canon, at least Throne of Glass canon, the Valg had just black eyes. They were just like,
not completely though. At least with some of the sources I have staring at me.
Oh God, I love this. This is just my memory. I'm not a scholar, but I'm like, the impression I got from like when Valg, like it was all pitch black.
Well, yeah, here they associated with Maeve specifically. The mind reading powers are described the same, like claws in the mind. The shadow powers as well. Now this is where I was like, oh dang, she's onto something. Is that Rune's name is very similar to the Rune Mountains that the Stygian spiders come from, that are like Maeve's little slaves, you know? And when Bryce tries to go to hell at the end of Crescent City 2, where does she land? Huh? She lands in Prythian. And the last words that Aelin says to Maeve were, then go to hell. So, you know, maybe Bryce actually did go to hell. In Hell of Prythian. Because
No.
Rhys is.
It literally is not, because the book says the demons are currently in hell and the circles of hell exist in and are descriptive of some place, and it is literally not Prithian. We do know this. It's literally not
Well,
true.
maybe-
I am putting this in no. I disagree so strong. I do not. This is nonsense because, first off, most of this can be explained by the fact that Sarah J. Maas is just not creative with her descriptions. You can read any of hers and you could be like, all these men are obviously related because all their muscles are described the exact same. Wow, all their dicks are described the exact same. Wow, they must all be secretly related. No. Also, we also know that, like, the mind-reading power doesn't actually have anything to do with Rhys's darkness powers, but that people can have it independently, that a bunch of different people have it. I chalk this up to Sarah J. Maas with, like, the claws and the mind. She's just uncreative. Let's be very real. Like, there are also just not that many ways to describe it as unpleasant if you, like...
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, if you are like, yeah, it's like somebody, like, rustling through the contents of your mind. Oh, what makes it scarier? Oh, if their fingers end in sharp claws. Like, okay, sure, whatever. I discount this point. And then it's also like, the Valg are specifically described as being parasites who aren't really, like, they're barely people. Like, they barely have the emotional bandwidth to be people. Like, both Meave and, like, the kings we see lack, like, very strong emotions that go into the positive direction. And, like, healing magic works on Rhys. He's not scared of it. It doesn't, like, damage him. Because, you know, he's just some guy. Yeah. He's not scared of fire like they are. This is nonsense. This is a strict no from me.
One of the biggest counter arguments that I saw in comments under this video was people saying, well, this doesn't... He must be like a super good actor in that case, because the love thing, the positive emotions thing, that he must act all of his life towards Feyre doesn't check out with the Valg theory. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the biggest arguments people in the comments said, that just doesn't make sense.
I mean, it's also like, wouldn't he have to be scared shitless of, like, Baron or whatever his name is and the whole Autumn Court? Wouldn't he have to be like, oh no, these guys have fire, I'm so scared? Like, right? Like, it's obviously not true. That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's like
darkness powers don't just exist in, like, one, like, it's not exclusive. One guy doesn't have
I feel like this
monopoly on darkness power.
This is one of the fun little crack theories floating around. I feel like.
Honestly, I'm like, I feel like it's lazy crack. You know what I mean? I feel like if you want real handcrafted crack theories, you have to make more of an effort than just be like, hey, these two things from the two different books are the same. Like,
I saw one, but it wasn't connected to just Crescent City, so I sorted out the ones that were just ACOTAR or just Throne of Glass. But one of my favorite crack theories that I saw was people saying that Azriel is Tamlin's real mate. It's like star-crossed lovers.
Right.
That was a good cracky theory.
Yeah, I'll believe it. Sure. See, at least this is creative.
See? Okay. Let's continue going through the theories.
Okay. Oh, this is House of Fire and Ash. I was like...
Fire and Shadow.
Of Fire and shit?
No, House of Fire and Shadow.
Oh, Flame and Shadow. Right, okay.
Flame and Shadow, yeah.
So Aelin will be in the book is the theory.
Yes. This is a pretty short one, with damning evidence, might I add, for the simple fact that in Empire of Storms, the first title they call her after her own name is the Queen of Flame and Shadow. That's it. That's the short and sweet.
Like this is again kind of lazy because these things aren't related in this way. Like, the words are the same, but she's called Queen of Flame and Shadow because she has 1, fire magic, and 2, literally the book before it was called Queen of Shadows because she's like an incredibly well-known like I don't like this.
But is it a no or is it an agree to disagree?
It's an agree to disagree because the theory is that she's gonna be in the book, which I'm honestly like, I don't really expect it because like she's been nerfed and she has her happily ever after or whatever, and I personally think it's much more likely that you'd get like Doran and Manon or something where it's not, you know, the protagonists from the other book, because like they've already, Aelin has had enough books worth of content, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, is Crescent City a trilogy?
I don't know specifically for Crescent City. I have read that Sarah J. Maas is in contract for, I think, at least 5 more books or even 6 more books. But it's not really...
Yeah.
It's not really, like, connected, or it hasn't been said which book series, or if it's just 5 books or 6 books in total.
Yeah, I mean, she can do, like, oh yeah, this is the 3rd one for these, but then I'm continuing with, like, other... But, okay, because, like, if this was the final book for Crescent City as, like, a storyline, I would be like, I could see that, like, both Vera and Aelin are also there for, like, a girl power moment or something. Yeah. Even though, let's be real, if these women met, they would hate each other. Because none of them can stand not to be the center of the universe for, like, 3 minutes. It's you know? But, like, I don't think she's gonna be in it. I think, like, obviously, if Farrah's gonna be like, if Rhys is there, Farrah's gonna be there, and we're gonna see the stupid fucking baby or whatever. I just don't like pregnancy storylines, okay? I think that's dumb. But otherwise, yeah. I don't think she's gonna be in it, but I also don't think it's, like, out there to theorize that she's gonna be in it.
Yeah.
Because, like, who knows? Maybe Sarah J. Maas is like, yeah, next Crescent City book is, like, 1,500 pages, and, like, everyone's gonna be in it. All the boys can compare, like, their slavery experiences. It's gonna be real fun.
Compare their wingspan, yeah.
Well, Rowan obviously loses because he's just like a falcon, right? Like, he's just a normal bird. Like,
Oh, one theory I didn't add in here because I wasn't able to find a TikTok again, was that in Crescent City, you have, on the werewolf context, you have people called bloodhounds who can, like, smell out others. And there was the theory that Rowan could also be one of these bloodhounds in terms of that he has, like, incredible intuition and smell. And that if he happens to wander over to the other characters, he would just talk like tea all the time. He'd be like, oh, you belong to that person, you belong to that person, you two are related. Oh, I didn't know that, you don't look alike. So that was one of my favorite theories when I saw it.
He is a messy bitch as well. Like,
right?
He loves
totally
drama if it's not, like, involving him. So I can see it, and it would be funny. But again, I feel like, I don't know if Sarah J. Maas could manage to balance out having the protagonists actually interact for any extended amount of time. Because again, none of these stories work if these people don't have, like, a preferential place in the order of the universe, right? Like,
honestly, I'm so excited and stoked because there was, like, a snippet on her Instagram where it's like Bryce ran along the hallway hoping to Nesta and I think Azriel or something, hoping there was something left. It was like, dang, the sound, it reads so weird. It reads like it shouldn't work. I don't know if you know the concept of, like, the pink void in Disney, where all the Disney princesses, whenever they're put together, they're just existing in a pink void. That's how it feels. It's like putting these characters together. It's just
like, I feel like this is generally an issue when authors try for crossovers, because like it really depends on what you're writing. But if you're writing something like Sarah J. Maas, where every one of your protagonists needs to be the key to whatever world-spanning problem exists in the universe at this moment, then you can't put them together. Because if the world revolves around their gravity, like, it just doesn't work narratively, because these people stop being themselves if they're, like, put into, like, just a side character role, right?
Yeah.
They
don't exist in that kind of dynamic.
They cannot exist in a diminished state without being somebody else, basically. Because, like, so much of them is, like, made off of how people react to them, and if they stop being the protagonist, then
there's no reaction, Yeah. I'm so excited to see how it goes. Okay.
I am so excited to hear from you what the fuck goes on in there.
So it's an agree to disagree. We still have a couple theories left.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with the Valg comeback. What is this about?
Yes, wait, I need to find it in my little sheet.
Yeah.
Where is it? I just had it, because I was kind of guessing that you would take that. Here. So that was basically the question of what if, like, the Throne of Glass gang...
Throne of Gas?
No! If the Throne of Glass gang, they were to be kind of left alone, what if they don't have a choice? Because if we think about... the Asteri want to go back to Prythian to revenge their siblings. They're saying, the Fae have still not atoned for their deaths of our brothers and sisters. Their homeworld was rich in magic. I crave for it. That's what Regulus says to Bryce, in allusion to Queen Theia and the High King of Prythian, how they defeated them. Well, what if Orcus and Mantix, the brothers of Erewhon, had a similar grudge against the Throne of Glass gang, and were to, come to invade their space? And now here's a fun little theory hidden in the theory that I was delighted to see, is that we know that the Valg kings can, like, change shape and form, and they are quite good at emulating a person. They all have characteristic golden eyes, which is said as a quote, the eyes of the Valg king. So this is something that people do know about. And they are known to be masters of the shadows. And now, who do we know who has hazel eyes glowing like golden globes in the shadows? Azriel. Is Azriel a Valg king? Is Azriel plotting to actually use... the gates, to use Bryce to go to the Throne of Glass gang, to revenge his little brother? Who knows?
I mean, no, because Azriel is not a Valg. Like, he might be related to them. You can spin that however you want, right? But, like, we do know he has a family, and we know he hates his family, because his family sucks. And abused him for, like, most of his life, until he got away from them. So, like... I don't believe that, first off. But also, like, wasn't the whole deal in Throne of Glass that, like, the gates were now permanently shut? Like, the whole thing that they could not be reopened, basically? Because, like, not even by the gods who, came from somewhere else who were like, yeah, you can close the gates, but, like, you gotta make sure all of us, like, have left the building before you barricade yourself inside. We don't want to stay here. Your world sucks. So, I don't know about it. I mean, I am trying in my brain to be like, none of this is consistent and makes sense. But I also know this is not how Sarah J. Maas's brain works, right?
Yeah, I feel like this has S.J. Maas flavor. If we go back to the Hunt theory...
Unfortunately, like, I do agree. It does feel like it, even though, like, I'm like, there's no way this isn't an afterthought after she's like, wait, actually, I could combine this and pretend it was the goal all along, you know? So I'm like, it does make sense in the kind of Sarah J. Maas logic. I personally dislike it because it's like, it's not like these people don't already have a defined problem that is already, again, insanely similar, in that it would make no sense to bring in an antagonist again who's just doing the same. Like, the Valg were there to eat all the magic and life in the Throne of Glass world. The Asteri are sucking all the life and magic out of the places they visit and subjugate. Like, it's the same.
Yeah.
These people seem to have like, more of a range in terms of looks and personality, but, like, it's the same, right? Like, it's not, it's literally the same. So bringing in the Valg again would be pointless, like, from a storytelling perspective. If you're, like, plotting a story, you're like, yeah, I don't need the same, like...
Again.
We don't need two threats who are literally the same, because it doesn't add anything to the story.
What if they are the same, though?
I mean...
What if the Valg are the Asteri, or the other way around, Asteri are the Valg?
But then why would they be scared of, like, why would they have issues with, like, the starlight power instead of fire? Like, I don't really...
Well, because Queen Theia was, like, their biggest opponent. And Peleus, who was the prince, kind of ate. Wasn't that? No, that was Apollyon. Never mind. I got my Crescent City facts wrong. I have a cheat sheet on the side over here.
There's a lot of people involved in the Crescent City lore. I was also, after, like, I got my crash course, I was like, I'm not going to remember all of these names.
Yeah.
There are too many named characters who don't contribute anything.
to maybe put the Asteri into context just for us and the people listening right now. So Prince Peleus was the general to Queen Theia. They entered Midgard. She took her daughters with her. And several Fays that had stubborn powers as well as herself. Then during the First War, the Prince of the Pit, Apollyon, slew Sirius, who was the one holy star, which is why he got the title Star Eater. And it was revealed then that the Fae that made the crossing with Queen Theia were tricked by the Astari, and then this first war that they're fighting lasted for about a year until Queen Theia was killed by her general Peleus, and he then forcibly married and reproduced with her daughter Helena. And then this death of Theia enraged Prince Idas, your little boy,
the cat boy.
And he sought out his brother, so Apollyon, to avenge her death. And then during the final battle, Apollyon and Peleus were fighting each other for like days. But then Peleus was able to like summon the horn's strength and banished Apollyon and his brothers and the armies back to hell, and then he sealed the Northern Rift forever. He dies, and the horn cracks in two. Like kind of the whole thing.
The lore is so needlessly like convoluted.
It is very convoluted, but so to remember, the Asteri are kind of scared of the Starborn powers because of the connection to Queen Theia and Apollyon, I guess. But yeah, the Valg are scared of fire, so maybe it's light. It's warm.
I will say, I don't believe in it. I do think it's nonsense. I am putting
Let's go with that.
No. I feel like the Valg don't really... Like, they are such generic evil fantasy goo creatures, ultimately, because most of them are just, like, black and shapeless and, like, you know, you stuff them into real people so they, you know, can do your bidding, whatever. They're so boring that I feel like it'd be a waste to bring them back. Like, the Asteria are already more interesting just by being, restrained enough in their imperialism and exploitation that they don't murder everything and then move on, but they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna, keep
Charge
using
up.
you. Yeah, we're just farming you. Like, they're at least smart enough for that, so...
I had a bit of a whiplash when reading the end of Crescent City 2 and Bryce starts talking about planets and the Astari basically being aliens going from planet to planet, from world to world. And it was like, this is some Men in Black shit.
Yeah, but it was also like, why would you conceptualize it like that? Because the implication, from my perspective, would be that they were going from universe to universe, but the planet seems to be roughly the same every time. Because all these planets have, like, people-shaped people. It's literally called Midgard, which is just the, name for Earth in Northern mythology.
Yeah.
Like, the Throne of Glass universe is, like, the planet's probably shaped about like Earth. It has implied the same seasons, whatever.
Yeah.
Prithian's literally just the UK. Like, it's just Britain.
And a little bit of
literally
France.
just Ireland. It's literally just our world. Like, that would be my assumption. That's how I would read it. I wouldn't be like, oh, they're traveling from planet to planet in the same universe. They're clearly moving not in space, but between spaces on the same, like...
plane.
In the same plane. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like... that also struck me as weird as somebody explained it like that. I was like, that doesn't sound like the implication I got from this at all, but okay.
To me, it also...
Sarah J. Maas watched some sci-fi while writing this and thought like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write it like this.
There was definitely something that took me out, because I was all for the magical portals, different worlds, and then she comes at me with planets. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's like, worlds and planets are not interchangeable. The Asteri could go to Venus, but they would get precious little out of it, because it's like...
Yeah.
Right, because the implication is that magic exists in living beings, and, like, you could probably siphon power from, like, the chemical processes going on in Venus's atmosphere. It's, like, fucking toxic, but, like, I'm sure if you
Just
were...
like them.
Sufficiently advanced, you could get something out of it, but they're clearly not going there. They're going where people live, which would just be like an alternate Earth again. Like,
yeah, I mean,
that's
because
what I would get from it. But I guess Bryce is like a sci-fi fiend, and she was like, haha, that's how I conceptualize it.
I think there's a planet constellation in the room. That's why she associates it with planets. But yeah, it was super weird. Anyways. Let's continue.
Okay. Master Manipulator Rhys. This is, it's so cut up in the little card. I was like, what does this mean? Master Manipulator?
I thought that would add to the vibe. Just like the PowerPoint I decided to. This ties into one of my favorite crack theories, in which Rhys is a villain in the overall Akatar universe, because he's charming. He gets Feyre out of her situation, and from Feyre's perspective, he's like super charming boy. In Silver Flames, we see the mask crack. We see him get snipped. We see him get, like a little bit mean. We have Amren suggest that, hey, you could be the next High King of Prithian. We have the sword from Nesta that she got you. You have all this power now. You could be High King. And he's like, no, but he considers it. He's like, there's some power hungriness in there. And somebody just made the innocent observation that Rowan was like, oh, Lyria, she was a flower girl at the market. And Lucian's like, oh yeah, Elaine, she's the flower girl. And then Rowan went, oh, when I saw her at the market, immediately I knew she was my mate. And Lucian goes, oh, well, when she came out of the cauldron, I immediately knew she was my mate. But we know that Maeve tricked Rowan into thinking that. So what if, hear me out, don't laugh. What if Rhys
You can't say that.
manipulated Lucian into thinking Aelin is his mate because Rhys has very strong feelings about Azriel trying to pursue Aelin. He's like very mad that Azriel even tries to think about pursuing Aelin as his mate. So what if that's not because Rhys is like, dude, you gotta respect the woman and her choices, but maybe it's because he's like, no, I laid this little seed. It needs to grow, Azriel. We can't have your dick get in between my master plan.
Yeah, okay, but like, what would be the point?
We don't know yet, but it's
okay. So there is no point. We haven't gotten a compelling idea yet. We're waiting. Okay.
It's just that maybe this is all just a big mastermind plan that Rhys is going after. But yeah, Rhys being the villain is one of my favorite crack theories.
Here's the thing, right? Like, I don't dislike this, but I feel like people who say this miss the fact that, like, first of how Sarah talked about Akatar and Farah and Rhys's relationship, she clearly doesn't believe he's a villain, right? He's, for her, a charming hero, and she's the author. And the narrative consistently validates Rhys's choices and opinions and statements as, if not entirely correct, at least, like, he's not, malicious when it comes to people he cares about. Even though, if you look at it from the outside, you're like, he's a huge cunt. Like, that's not how you're not supposed to see that, right? Yeah. Sarah's just, like, lost in the sauce, and no editor is there to be like, Sarah, I know you like this guy, but a lot of the audience will not see it that way, because if you think about what he does, it makes him look pretty bad. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think there's also the reason... Oh, I'm sorry.
I was also about to say, like, Maeve had a very specific point for tricking Rowan with this, because it was very soon, like, expedient to her personal plans of having him work for her. And, like, but what would be the point of tricking Lucian into thinking Aelin is his mate? Because, like, Rhys didn't need Lucian, like, Farah and Rhys didn't need Lucian's help for fucking up Tamlin's spring court. Like, right? Like, and then, like, when she brought Lucian with her to the night court, everyone was like, I don't know what to do with this guy. Like, you brought him with you, but, like,
maybe
we don't
it wasn't
need
about
him.
Lucian. Maybe
Rhys,
it was about
at this
Azriel.
point, didn't even know that Lucian was, what was his name? Helion? Like,
Helion's, yeah.
Yeah, Helion's son. Like, he hadn't even checked that at the time. Like, he's not... like, what would be the point, right? Because, like...
We don't know yet.
Lucian's...
We don't need to know yet.
We don't need to know. Like, here's the thing. I will say, it could work.
Ooh.
I like it. Ooh. I would love to read, like, somebody's AU summary of how they imagine it.
Yeah.
I find, like... Conceptually, it is compelling, because it's also like, Sarah's not that good at recognizing the implications her world building carries, right?
Yeah.
So, like, Rhys and Farah are supposed to be the heroes and look good, but then you look at them and you're like, well, your own court is still infested with insane inequality. It's still, like, rife with discrimination, and you're not doing anything. Your wealth can only come from getting paid tithes or rent or whatever it is, how you call it, from people who are working their ass off. Like, maybe, like, sure, you try to protect them and be nice to them, which makes you better than the other rulers, but functionally, a monarchy is still exploitative and bad at its core. So, like, you will always kind of look like the bad guy when you're like, well, I'm still in charge and I get to one-sidedly tell all of you how you get to live. Yeah. And it's... Right? But that's not how it's supposed to look. But if you take it seriously and play it straight, that's how it could look.
I think I totally agree with that. And on top of that, I think the biggest oopsie in regards to this theory sounding or like coming into place was Silver Flames. Because in the first 3 books and in the Christmas one, all of the actions that Rhys does that could be deemed questionable are in the end, excused by saying, oh, well, he was helping Feyre, he was helping the good guys, he is the good guy. In Silver Flames, we need a new sort of a villain, we need a new person that's kind of the antagonist, and for Nesta, that's recent. So all of the things that in the previous books weren't mentioned kind of got dialed up to the 100%, and we don't have the perspective of somebody who's in love with Rhys and who Rhys is in love with, but, the sister who abused her sister, who is the wife.
Who has never really apologized for it, yeah.
So it's only, understandable in a sense that Rhys isn't nice to Nesta, and it's only understandable in like a story writing aspect that Sarah J. Maas went, well, he's the bad guy now in terms of feeling bad for him. I mean, there's still a lot of iterations where it's like, oh, Rhys does this good thing, but I think Silver Flames is the biggest fan of this theory because
I feel like I do think like a lot of this doesn't come from what I would consider the right place. Like a lot of it is just like from people who like Nesta, Nesta more than Feyre as a protagonist, and who are like, wow, the inner court kind of sucks because they're all huge jerks to everyone who's not their friend, which we already knew. Like, this isn't really news. Like,
they were very exclusive,
you can already see it, like in the other books, but they're supposed to be Feyre's friends there, so it's like, oh, look, all her besties are ride or die, and it's like, that's cool, but also the moment you do something wrong, or at least, like, questionable, if they're ride or die, they're also all gonna be wrong, and it's gonna be, like, a huge issue. Like, they were gonna look like jerks to anyone who's wronged by any of you, because you're all ride or die and also the most powerful people in this country. So it's like, it's not pleasant for anyone who's not in the in-group. So obviously they look much worse. And again, I also feel like this is hampered a bit by the fact that Sarah isn't a fan of making any of her protagonists, like, reflect on how they look or even, face consequences much, which makes them look worse. Because then it's just like, oh, the narrative is excusing all of this, pretending these are all things good people could do, while in reality you look at it and go like, no, these were, like, mistakes or bad things to do, and if you were a good person, you'd, like, take ownership or apologize, or at least, like, realize it, even if you're not, like, in a place where you're willing to apologize to people you've wronged. You should at least realize it, but that's not happening because Sarah's like, no, they're good people, so none of this is a problem.
Definitely. So I like it. Like, I like it.
I do like it because I'm also like, listen, Rhys is fun and all, but especially from what I've heard of the other books, like after Aquar, like he gets like real weird. Like I'm not a huge fan of the whole like not telling your wife her pregnancy could kill her.
Honestly, for me,
not right.
He went a bit into the mafia boss, like, vibes. Yeah, you know what I mean?
On that vibe, it's also just like Sarah J. Maas just not consistent in her writing. Like, it's just she finds a new shiny thing she likes, and then that gets applied to all her characters, which makes them inconsistent and makes them look worse. And like,
Rhys from Akamath like, would never.
No, that's the thing, right? Rhys from Akamath would never. But, like, he's not Rhys from Akamath. He's Rhys from whatever. Yeah. Like, he's not that guy anymore, you know? He's a new man.
He's a father now.
Okay. Anyway. That's that on that. God. We still have that episode we want to do sometime about Sarah J. Maas and character writing.
We do. We
did the world building, but we have some more complaints to talk about.
But I think we should weigh on Crescent City 3 because I think then we'll have loads more new material in regards of character writing. That's gonna be
interesting. That's for sure. Okay. Okay, let's talk about Theia.
Theia. So we briefly talked about Theia herself. Who is she? The whole yada yada in terms of the war. And this theory was about Queen Theia and her descendants. Because we know Helena marries forcibly Peleus after he kills her mother, and that's the bloodline that Rune and Bryce supposedly stem from, right? They have the Starborn powers. Bryce has alluded to Queen Theia. Somewhere in there must have been some Autumn King involvement, because obviously like Rune and Bryce are his kids. But what about the other daughter, the unnamed daughter? Because Queen Theia has 2 daughters. And the idea of why Rune and Rhys look so much alike, to the point that Bryce is confused when she sees Bryce, because he's like, Rhys, because she's like, what? Huh? What? Is that perhaps the other daughter went back through the portal and married the High Lord of the Night back then. So Rhys's closest relatives are Kier and Moore, who are both blonde with brown eyes. And that doesn't really match the aesthetic, I would say, of Rhys. So at some point, High Lord marries the other daughter. Down the line, they get together with Illyrians. And from that line, the Recent's mother comes out of, as well as Cassian and Azriel, because they're also like super powerful Illyrians, which isn't really normal in that sense for Illyrians. And the poster said that, maybe that's even, the one Illyrian that defended Ramiel, the one mountain from Silver and Flames, against these ancient enemies, the Astari or the Daglands. So yeah, theory is second daughter ran away, had involvement in Prythian, and that's how you have these 2 bloodlines of people who look exactly the same.
I am like,
I can see it in your face. You're not convinced.
I don't like. I have a special place in my heart of hatred for people who insist that everything must be all the important characters need to be related in some way, because it is obviously impossible that unimportant people who don't come from important bloodlines contribute effectively to the plot, right?
Never.
One, that's weird. Second, why can't they're already blood brothers? Do they need to be distant cousins 5 times removed? Is that necessary? Does this add anything? No. Also, the weird part is, right, that Rhys's looks come from his Illyrian mother, right? That's why he and Cassian and Azriel all look the same. Why does Rune look like an Illyrian?
No, because the idea is that it kind of comes from the Queen Theia.
But that's the wrong way around, though, right? Because the implication then is that Queen Theia is responsible for the way the Illyrians all look. Because
yeah,
right?
Well, I guess the idea is the daughter marries the High Lord. The High Lord's children, I don't know. Or maybe just directly the High Lord's daughter is involved with the Illyrians. So that's the idea for how the genetic material travels down the line.
Sure, but you get why I'm that's nonsense, because it's especially said that Rhys looks so Illyrian that a lot of High Fae didn't respect him when he was young, and he looks think it's actually remarked by Fair that he and Kaz and Azriel all look pretty similar. Mm-hmm. Because they're all Illyrian, right?
Yeah.
Like, so again, the implication would be that Queen Theia has somehow, like, strongly influenced the Illyrian gene pool in a way that, like, all the Illyrians look like her, but on the other side, like, Rune's one of the only people who looks like
That's the thing, right? I mean, they all of the people from the Autumn Court in the Crescent City have darker skin, and they all have red hair, which is one of the reasons, like, you know, again, just because people have the same skin and hair color doesn't mean they're related, but
it's
going from the SJM universe, how did people struggle so hard to connect Bryce and the Autumn King? Like, how was it such a secret? If you had, because a lot of times people are like, oh, you look so like your father. It's like, okay, he's a celebrity in that city.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, being like, oh, she's a distant cousin. It's like, really, though? Like...
Are you sure?
Her two parents are clearly human. Like, where's the Fey blood in them if it's so dominant that she looks exactly like her dad? Right? It's also... on, like, looking at Crescent City, I'm just like, why is it just the Autumn Court? Where are the other courts? Like, sure, the Autumn Court, like, leader could be king of all Fae there. That's not, like, you know, unheard of. There are a lot of stories where, like, the Alder King is king of the Summer Court, and he's, like, the High King of Fae or whatever. So, but I'm just like, where are the other courts, Sarah? Why is there just the Autumn Court?
There's one world building thing. I think we talked about this in the Crescent City, in the SJM world building episode, where there's other Fae in the world as well, the Avalon Fae, who are deemed to be a little bit like some sort of older Fae compared to the Crescent City Fae, with the one guy, I forgot his name, Cameron, I forgot his name, who was supposed to marry Bryce as a sort of unity between the two Fae houses, basically. So there are different... let me look at my little cheat sheet over here. These are the Astari, never mind. Just flicking through it. Cormac Donnell, who's the crown prince of the Avalon Fae. He also has shadow powers and stuff, and he's supposed to be Bryce's new husband, I think decreed by her father. So he's like, hey, you guys are gonna have to connect, basically.
I mean, like, the weird thing is already that, like, the narrative strongly implies that, like, everything was a Fae once. Like, Sarah has decided she likes Fae, so
that's okay.
Everything else is a decision. Which, like, it's not entirely incorrect. Like, if you look at history and historical folklore, the fair folk are not a specific grouping of traits or whatever. They're just a collection of everything strange you could put in a story, right? Fairy tale, like, the Fae range from bunny in a suit who can talk to, like, sexy guy who just seems a little bit odd. You know, like, it's the full range of everything to, like, monster made of shadows that eats people's faces. Like, they're all the fair folk. Like, it's all under the same umbrella because it's just, like, a collection of, like, the supernatural,
all folklore, basically.
Yeah, they were all like, they're all part of the fair folk, you shouldn't offend them, and and all of that, you shouldn't, like, they all play by the same rules, like, they're all sensitive to iron and salt and stuff, so... But, like, they're all, like, supernatural in the same way. Like, it's not a specific thing, so it's, like, I don't find it unforgivable, but I do find it very funny because, like, very specific things like werewolves and vampires as lore are, like, not necessarily younger, but certainly the current conceptions of them are younger, but they were also definitely not considered part of the fair folk, like... hundreds of years ago either. They were a different thing, but that's still okay. It's like, it's whatever. I'm not mad about it, but it's like...
So where would you rank?
I am also putting this under no, because I think logistically it just doesn't check out.
Those would be some strong genes.
Logistically, I don't get it.
Okay.
I don't think this works.
All right. So what would be the next one for you?
Let's do Lydia next.
Lydia.
We have another single name.
You are familiar with Lydia as a character?
Probably, but the name doesn't ring a bell without any added
So Lydia, yeah, that's fine. So Lydia gets introduced in Crescent City 2, and she's sort of a general for the Astari, for the what was her name? Shahar, like the evil twin sister that tortured Hunt. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Or no, Shahar was Sandriel. Shahar was his lover. Sandriel is the twin of the lover. So Sandriel. And Lydia was her general.
Okay.
And she is also...
Lydia, also typical angel name. Just wanna put that out there. Very, very, very normal angelic name. Yeah.
She's also, as I'm just reading in my cheat sheet, Hypoxia's half sister. Forgot that. Hypoxia was a witch character in the series. Lydia has some characteristics that even me, okay, a person who doesn't really connect dots a lot, made me think of Aelin. Now, Lydia is, like, just from the visuals, I thought like, oh, this is a little like not with the head towards Aelin. She's very tall. She's like, you know, a fighter, blonde hair, regal looking. She's like a sight to behold when she comes across. She's actually like a double spy. So she pretends to be Sandriel's general, and she does some fucked up shit under her command, but she's actually reporting back to the rebellion, fighting against Sandriel, which is her connection to Rune. Rune becomes her point of contact, and they
that one, yeah, I remember.
And they develop a relationship, and she has the nickname called the Hind because that's her animal form, so she can turn into like a huge deer. And the thing is, and this is also something we talked about in the world building video.
Like a deer, you say?
Yeah. That's why it was like, oh yeah, that's like a little nod. But the shifters from Midgard, which Lydia falls under, are fated can take on, you know, an animal form. Is the theory, and that these Fae features were bred out by the Astari. So it's just, you know, they look like normal, very strong humans, no pointy ears, but they can turn into animals. And the Fae in the Throne of Glass universe also are able to shapeshift. You know, if you're a Rowan turning into a bird, you have Aelin turning into a human, which I think is the lamest.
That one was still so funny. The reveal was hilarious.
It's like
it was like Sarah J. Maas had just realized that, oh, true, humans are also technically animals. That's true. Haha. Let's use that.
They all get some really cool animals, and Aelin gets just a human. It's like a werman, you know, it turns into a man in the movie. But yeah, the idea is that since the Fae in the Throne of Glass universe are these kind of shapeshifters, that those came over to Midgard, the Fae features were bred out, and that the heirs of these bloodlines now run around in Midgard, and Lydia could be connected to Aelin as a bloodline because of the deer symbolism, and also Lydia is associated with fire several times in the story, so that could be a connection to Aelin as either, you know, a little homage or a general nod, as in this is her bloodline. But that's the Lydia theory, basically.
Okay. I do think it's funny when it's like, ooh, these people could be related because of their looks, and I'm like, But aren't Aelin's looks from the Ash River line, which is not the fire magic line, but the water magic? Whatever. It's not important. I'm not here to nitpick. I'm like, you know what? Sure, whatever. This is so... It's so non-specific. I'm like, I mean, maybe. Like, it's not... I don't have, like, a problem with it. It's like, yeah, I guess makes sense. Like,
yeah.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I wasn't under the impression that, like, the Fae animal forms are, like, hereditary? Like, right? Because I feel like Aelin's parents probably didn't also shift into humans or, like, other descendants of great apes, which would have objectively been very funny. Like,
like an orangutan. Just
that would be very funny. Like, you wake up and your dad's a gorilla. Comedy. But
could be a Snickers commercial.
That's true. You're not you when you're hungry. But, like... I mean, again, yeah. Like, I don't have gripes with the theory. It's like... I feel like you could do some more work with this, and like you could add onto this, become real crazy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I feel like this is like, it's a solid foundation. I'm like, yeah, I can see the connecting dots. There are indeed connections, which I feel like could be on purpose. This does feel Sarah J. Maasy, but do more. I'm like, you need to work some more on this. It's workshop it, like make it more insane. I want more detail.
I mean, if we talk about, like, are these animal forms hereditary? I mean, they probably aren't, I guess, if we think that Lydia has a hind and, you know, Aelin has a human. But yeah, this was one of the theories I genuinely liked. And I was like, you know what? I would go with that. If that happens.
I'm like, you know what? They're distantly related. Sure, whatever. It's the least offensive you could probably say.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right.
Okay.
We have 6 more. Okay.
Okay, I need to know, what is the cover conspiracy?
The cover conspiracy, I just called it that because I thought it had a nice ring to it. So it was basically talking about the covers of Crescent City, because if there's one good thing that came from these books, it's the covers.
They're really pretty.
I adore them so much, and when the cover reveal for the 3rd book came out, I was like, oh my god. And then at the Frankfurt Book Fair, at one of the English publishers, they had like a big poster of the cover, and I was like, oh, that's so good. But what they looked at was they looked at all of these covers in connection to Norse mythology, because the covers have, you know, the ravens on them. Could be a caller to the ravens of Odin. Hunt has been alluded to being Thor several times by different people, because
how many people is he?
He's the lightning guy.
He's Jason. He's Orion. He's Thor. He can do it all. He's got the range.
Get yourself a guy who can do everything. Yeah. All covers have a snake on it. Now this snake is kind of...
There make be snakes.
The Ragnarok snake. The snake could have, I think, different meanings. Plus, we do have a very prominent character in the books themselves, the Serpent Queen. And
who's not a snake lady. I'm still offended when you were like, no, she's just a lady. She's
yeah, but she has snake eyes. Like
a coward's way out. I'm gonna say that.
But like, we have a snake character in there, so okay. But they alluded to the Ragnarok snake. The House of Flame and Shadow cover could be referencing the goddess of Hill, because she has like one quotation marks pretty side and one, you know, with a black eye that's bleeding, which would be the like ugly destroyed side, which is how the goddess of Hill is often described.
Yeah, because she's half dead, half alive.
Yeah, but it could also allude to Nesta in, you know, like metaphorical way,
crying, yeah.
Because Nesta is established in Silver Flames as Lady Death a lot of times. So you know? Maybe that means that in Crescent City 3, Nesta will use the dead troves that she can use their power of against the Astari. And the Pegasus that we see on the cover, and this was one I didn't agree with, are the Valkyries. So Nesta's little girlhood squad. The last little thing that the creator wasn't really sure about was who would be Loki in this, in this constellation. Maybe Therion would be the merman guy in the Crescent City books, because he is a bit of like a charming guy. Others said Idas could be the Loki character, because, you know, he's very mischievous. In the comments, one comment by Alyssa Fox said that the dragon that gets introduced in Crescent City 2, Ariadne, has the powers to defeat the Prince of the Pit. So maybe she is the Queen of Hell. So not Nesta, but the dragon. Which would be interesting, because to me it felt like this dragon was introduced with no reason whatsoever. Like all of the scenes with how do I call it? The Fae bachelor roommates that Rune lives with, and their scenes with Ariadne the dragon, it made no sense to me. Why would you even include that? It felt very much like a setup for the third book, so that could also be the case. But yeah.
I will say, just like from a writing perspective, to fight the main antagonists of your book series through the proxy of a main character from a different book with MacGuffins from a different book would be insane. Like, imagine that. Like,
but you realize who we're talking about, right?
I know, but it's also like, sure, Sarah, your books are popular. They are not MCU popular. You cannot expect everyone who reads Crescent City to have read your other books.
Yeah.
Even Cassandra Clare, with all her crossovers, because all her books play in the same world, at least they play in the same world, right? Like, at least all these people can interact because they live in the same place. Respect, at least for this. Like, makes an effort to, every time something happens, it makes sense in the books, and even if characters from other books appear, they are not fundamentally so important to the narrative that they overshadow your previous protagonist.
Yeah.
Like, Jem is important in, like, the other books, but the story could go on without him. He doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, his little, like, cameo is not...
He helps Clary and Jace, whatever. He's at their wedding. But he's not important. Like, you could... If he died, it would still all work out.
Yeah.
But, like, imagine that... Like, this is insane to me. I cannot get over, like, if she did this, the presumptuousness of being, like, especially with books, it's, like, very different from, like, a globe-spanning, like, movie franchise that's, like, aimed at kids, so, like, most people at least know through cultural osmosis. Your cultural osmosis of the contents of a book are always going to be, like, way lower, because books just have way more content. So, like, even if you vaguely know of Crescent City, which I did before this, like, I couldn't have told you details. Like, if I hadn't heard people, like, if I hadn't sought out people explaining A Court of Silver Flames, I would have no fucking clue what happens, and that I would be like, yeah, it's, like, the Nesta Cassian romance, like, it's probably gonna mention how big his velvet-wrapped steel is, like, it... Like, I don't know details about the troves of death or whatever.
Yeah.
If they happened in a different book series from her I was reading, I'd be like, what the fuck is this shit? What is this? Where is it coming from? I don't know, man. Like, but also, like, again, I respect that someone's like, but look at Norse mythology and the connections there. And I'm like, yeah, Sarah looked at it for 3 seconds, looked at some names, looked at some aesthetics, and took them. The Vanir are not what, like, they are also from Norse mythology. They are not just like people with powers. They're a different sort of gods. They're just as powerful as the Aesir. Like, they're not, but they're also not the same. Like, they're different peoples who live. It's.
So maybe
she does not do research in terms of, do the thematic contents of what I'm taking make sense if I use them here? She just sees the words and uses them.
Okay, so maybe before we continue, let's talk about a second conspiracy, and then I think you can rate, and then I think you can rate them together if you want. Okay. Which is the Twilight of the Gods theory. So Twilight of the Gods is it has been listed on Goodreads. It has been known to be a project by Sarah J. Maas, and it was mentioned together in a tweet, I think in 2015 or something, when somebody was like, dude, Twilight of the Gods, Crescent City, all of these projects sound insane. We need to know what they're about. And Sarah J. Maas answered something along the lines of, they are, ideas that have been growing parallel for a while, and I think it's finally, time to let them go out. And that was like her big, unofficial announcement that one of these two book series would come out. And now Twilight of the Gods usually refers to Ragnarok in Norse mythology. And there's one thing that we can talk about later. Where it's like, Twilight, that's like dusk.
I thought you were gonna be like Twilight, like the book series, like vampires.
Well, that would be a connection. That would be crazy. No, there's again the dusk connection. Then we have. So basically, the implication was Twilight of the Gods, Ragnarok. The gods are going to die. Which gods could die? And all of these is like stuff that kind of comes a little bit from her Pinterest board as well. So we have Freya, kind of sounds like Feyre. So could Feyre die? We have the Valkyries who fight against, fight for the gods and ultimately die in Ragnarok. So do Nesta's friends die? We have Fenrir who, brings death upon the gods. Could that, be connected to the Throne of Glass, Fenris? Or Fenris?
No, it's just the name that people use for wolves.
Or maybe to the wolves from Crescent City, Danica Fenrir. Could she bring, death upon the worlds? Idas, the ruler of Hel. Hel is a realm in Norse mythology, just like Midgard. Could he be having something to do with that? And then Thor is doomed to die at Ragnarok, which brings us right back to the question of what the fuck happens with Hunt, because he is Thor in all of these iterations when people think about it. So these two theories kind of go hand in hand with the Norse mythology line.
I will say I am not an expert on Norse mythology, but I have read a good bit about it. So all of this, like the way you've explained it, just sounds to me like somebody who has glanced at the Wikipedia page and also has seen Marvel movies, has like picked up some names and some connected concepts and now thinks that they understand it and are like, oh yeah, see, there are parallels. So it's like, no, none of these mean anything in the way you're using them. These are just words you saw in a list or a summary. These are not connected in the way you think they're connected.
Don't be mean.
It's just, no, but it's like, see, this is like comparing this to the person who wrote like the Argonautica theory. It's just like, you didn't even make an effort. You didn't even read up on Norse mythology and what like the god dawn usually entails. You didn't look at what Ragnarok actually like includes and what they think happens and what like the cultural background of it is, because that's interesting, but you didn't really apply any of it, because like Thor doesn't just die. Thor is legit, like, Thor is fighting Jormungandr because he's just, like, overconfident. Fenris isn't just, like, let loose upon the world. They have him chained up until the end of the world, and then he gets killed pretty soon after. Like, he doesn't do a lot. Like, he kills one god, but, like, the context is entirely different. The name Fenrir and Fenris is just everywhere in, like, Wolf Connections because it's a cool name, and Fenrir is, like, known character from Norse mythology. Like, these things they don't fit together if you know the background, so you're just like, and like Freya isn't just like, Freya is not Frigga, these are different. And like Bryce isn't really that, like, she doesn't make sense as like a Freya analog either.
No, Freya would be Feyre. The Feyre analog, simply because of the names.
Okay, yeah, that is also stupid because that also doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So like none of it fits together. Like, I feel like if you want to make a crack theory, you should put more effort into it. Like, I get it, you just see the covers and you're like, ooh, what do these mean? But it's also like, you don't know what the cover artists were told. Maybe the cover artist was just told to, like, make something cool looking, and these are things that are somewhat relevant to the plot at some point. Like, if you look at the cover for Crescent City 1, how much of it is, like, actually meaningful to the story?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
the same with Crescent City 2 with the cover there.
Yeah, even the names, like, what does, like, the House of Wind and Sky or whatever...
Sky and Breath. Like, what, like, that house isn't specifically involved in the plot of Crescent City 2 either. Like, neither the name nor the cover, like, has that much bearing on any of the content. To be honest,
I feel like the name and cover are set before Sarah J. Maas comes out of her, like, little writing hole and presents her editors with, like, the most insane shit they've ever, like, witnessed in a, like, published author, you know? It's like... I feel like...
So they're both a no for you, I guess.
I mean, I will say, I think I respect the cover conspiracy. I'm like, this is nonsense, but also it's funny nonsense. You know, they're looking at the cover, trying to glean something. This is like people trying to read tarot cards. You know, they're just like, what are the vibes I'm getting? How can I, like, put my red string on the board? Yeah. The Twilight of the Gods is like, no, make an effort. I'm like, I'm taking out my gun, cock it, make an effort. Like,
I love how you're like, no. Okay, so we got 4 left. Okay. Pick one.
Okay, let's do the Dusk Court. I already don't like the concept of the Dusk Court because, like, it just feels stupid. Like, it feels like Sarah just forgot to include it in ACOTAR, where she was just like, you know, I don't want to call it the Twilight Court, because Twilight's a loaded name in this day and age. But, like, the Dawn Court sounds nice. So I'm gonna include that. You cannot tell me she had plans for the Dusk Court to exist. I don't believe you. I do not believe you.
So this is a bit of information taken from multiple videos that I saw, because the theory for the Dusk Court existed before Crescent City came out. Right? Yeah. And now that Crescent City has come out, there's been an effort to kind of include what has come out there into the Dusk Court. So the video I had as a source on this was sort of in connection to Crescent City, but the idea of the Dusk Court has been around for much longer, mainly because people speculated whether the Dusk Court would be of importance for Elaine's story. Because each, you know, there is some vibe to her that simply does not belong to the Night Court. There's been a theory that she belongs to the Spring Court, which would go in hand with Lucian was still actively at the Spring Court, but he isn't.
Shouldn't she then go to the, the Day Court? Because, like, Lucian's the heir for...
Some people speculate that she would be the belonging to the Dawn Court, because, you know, she's sunlight and stuff. But yeah, the Dusk Court theory, I think, came out of the question of why is there a Dawn Court but not a Dusk Court? I think that was one of the biggest things that left people a little bit baffled. And the idea is that the Dusk Court is... so the Crescent City theory is that the Dusk Court is the prison island that the island is on, would also go hand in hand with the fact that there's like 3 mountains are a theme in ACOTAR, and one mountain is like the mountain from under the mountain, then we have Ramiel as a mountain, and then the prison island is, I think, on a hill. So that would be a mountain. And the idea that I liked in context to Crescent City is that the Dusk Court, since dusk is like a combination, you know, it's light and dark, it's the 2 halves of the day meeting in this like twilight going to the night zone. So the Dusk Court might be divided into 2 different parts. One part is the prison island in Prythian, and the other half is the Avalon Island in Midgard, so in Crescent City. So these are 2 halves of the Starborn Fae, the one in Midgard and the one in Prythian.
That's not at all where my mind went.
So that's the additional Crescent City theory.
I was like, isn't the obvious like association that the Dusk Court are the Fae that followed Queen Theia, and that she was the leader of the Dusk Court, and that the starlight power comes from the Dusk Court, because the Dawn Court has like its healing light and whatever, so that the Dusk Court would also have like some special sort of light, and since dusk is more associated with night than dawn is, it would be the starlight. Wouldn't that be more logical than connecting 2 random islands?
Well, the islands were connected because of Cormac, and that he has powers you could attribute to the Starborn Fae as well. This is part of a bigger theory. So it's good that you picked the Dusk Court first, because otherwise it wouldn't have really made sense to talk about this. But yeah, the idea is that the Avalon Fae are also connected to the Starborn powers, and Queen Theia went from the Dusk Court, from Prythian to Midgard, and so she kind of carried over, which is also, you know, the Twilight Zone, she carried over from one world to another. So there's a lot of dusk symbolism connected to this.
Okay. I still don't really get the islands, but like, I mean, honestly, I guess this could work. I don't even think this is unhinged. I feel like this is like an obvious connection Sarah would use. Like, even if she didn't think of it while writing it, she'd probably like, now looking at what she's written, she's like, oh, I can use this.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, Amren Asteri, I can already assume what this is going to...
Yeah. Basically, the idea is... so this was in one of the Reddit posts, and people underneath posted that Sarah J. Maas has said that Amren is supposed to be an angel from the Old Testament. But the person still wondered whether Amren is an Asteri. Maybe Amren is related to Fury. Fury is one of the characters in Crescent City. And here, I don't know why the person thought they'd be related to Fury. I think because of the similar vibe they give off. First of all, they're both like the silent killer kind of type friend who always is, you know, somewhere, you never know where until they just pop up and they're like, don't ask me where I went, or otherwise I'd have to kill you. And they're both like Asian coded, so I guess that's why they were like, oh, you know, maybe they're related.
Sarah should read one article on like the Orientalist idea of the dragon lady and come back to her writing desk afterwards, I think.
Especially because we know that Amren, that didn't really like this is not what she looks like. She just snatched up this body of a fae and like slipped into it. So it's not like there's a... If Amren was truly related to Fury, then that wouldn't really make sense based on that note.
Yeah, it's like Amren didn't look like a person because she wasn't a person. Because she was a very, very specific angel from the Old Testament, which then... it's just, like, Amren's backstory is already stupid.
I think the biggest one was because we don't know who Fury is and what, who is this person, apart from apparently a friend of Bryce. And one part, and that's why I included it, because I thought it was kind of cute, was that we haven't seen Fury eat anything in the book. Just like we never see Amren eat anything, because Amren only drinks blood. So that was a fun little fact that I thought was interesting. But yeah, this theory was immediately corrected in the comments, and people were discussing under that comment of if Sarah J. Maas wouldn't have come out with that fact in how it might relate. In my humble, honest opinion, I feel like Fury, just like Lydia, might be a nod to another character. Like Lydia is a nod to Aelin, Fury feels like a nod to Amren, but in no way of being like they are connected.
And I also just... This might sound mean, but I also just think Sarah J. Maas has specific character, archetypes with a specific look that she just reuses over and over.
Yeah.
Lorcan and Cassian are the same guy, right? Looks-wise, behavior-wise, they're the same guy.
I would say Lorcan is like a traumatized Cassian, but yeah.
I mean, Cassian's also kind of traumatized, but not quite. They're differently, but they're basically, if you look at them, their vibes are the same.
Yeah,
man,
definitely.
Right? It's just the same stuff over and over. And, that's, again, she can then come out and be like, oh, these people are totally related. I knew this the entire time. And it's okay. I guess if you have a limited range of how your characters are allowed to look, then, it's... you're kind of forcing your own hand, I guess. But it's also, just... If you look at real life and people and you're like, wow, people who look the same must be related. Girl, there are, 20 blonde women on each Bachelor season who look the same. They're not related, though. They're interchangeable. They're not related, though, I will say.
I this is one of my favorite things in any kind of media, also in Game of Thrones, where it's what? The child does not have the same hair color as the father? This cannot be. Cheater. So
I mean, in fairness, if you have a black-haired parent, that is unlikely that you end up being blonde. But it's also yes, often it's it can also happen that two white people have a black child just through fun genetics mishmash. It could happen. It's unlikely, but it does happen sometimes.
Even with the hair itself, it's there's easily differences in there. But yeah, it's in SJ Maas sense, it makes it easier for her to make connections to characters if she goes, Yeah, I mean, they look the same.
It is also just that ultimately Sarah J. Maas doesn't describe people's looks in depth in any useful kind of way. Right? We get hair color, eye color, maybe something about the skin tone, maybe something vague about the face shape or something, but that's it. If you were trying to make a police sketch of these people, it's no wonder the fan art all looks the same, like a generic white Instagram model, because there isn't much more to work with, right? It's very basic on the description part. Because, they all have to be beautiful, which means they, that's descriptor enough. It's not beautiful can mean very different things or whatever. like, right, but they all already look the same. Like, yeah, I guess if everyone already looks the same, then you're like, wait, you do have red hair? That's suspicious.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so the Amren is an Asteri. I think it's either a no or an agree to disagree, I guess.
I think it's like I'm less mad about it, so it gets an agree to disagree, but I would also like, I think this is a good moment to mention something I was also thinking about, because like Amren's backstory, or like the way Sarah like mentioned who she was, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think even the text itself is like strongly implying that Amren was an angel in a world where a god did exist. Mm-hmm. However, none of the angels in Crescent City have any kind of Christian or Jewish, like, mythological associations or vibes, or, like, are in any way compatible with that. They're just, like, people with magic and wings. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. That's the extent. They don't even have, like, Christianized Jewish names or Jewish angel names. Nothing. Mm-hmm. So, like, their relationship just makes no sense to me. It's like, these are clearly not those kinds of angels. Because if they were, they'd be a lot more interesting. Because, like, this, like, without the theological implications of, like, angels existing, they're just kind of super-powered people with wings. There's nothing inherently interesting about them beyond the wings. If you're, like, Sarah and have a wing king, you know? It's, like,
I mean, like, we have as an archangel, we have Micah, which could be like... Yeah,
there are a few names, like Shahar and Sandriel, and like, there are some names in there which I'm like, these are angel names, but then you have Sirius and like, or Orion, which are like, these are names of constellations or stars. These are like Greek names. These are not related to biblical angels or like angels in Jewish like mythology. Like, it's not it does not check out at all. But yeah, that on that. Okay, let's do Bryce and Azriel. I know they have like matching sword and dagger. They're like I wanted besties.
To suggest let's go with World of the Dead, so we can have Bryce and Azriel as the last big thing, because the World of the Dead theory is less a theory and more of a what could happen. I guess you could also call that a theory, but it's not like a conspiracy theory. You know, it's more like a what could happen. But so in Crescent City, we have the first light, which is the light that the energy that gets emitted when emitted when the how would you call it, the immortal beings decide to become immortal. So you can grow and you can old until you decide to make the drop, where you fall into your power and then you have to descend out of it again. Some people don't make it, and that energy that gets emitted, that's the first light. And then we have the second light, which is what comes out when you die, finally. And then in Crescent City, you get taken over the river to the Island of Death, to what you would think of is, you know, some sort of a resting place. Until we find out at the end of Crescent City too, that the dead people just get eaten by the Astari instead of going where they are supposed to go, which opens up the question, where are they supposed to go? Are they really supposed to go to that island, or is the island just like a fake kind of place?
I was wondering, we're like, okay, but where does everyone else in the world go? Do they also travel to Crescent City? Does everyone have to go to Crescent City? Like, imagine you lived in Australia and then, like, you have to ship yourself around the globe to get to, like, the one place where people die. Like,
imagine live on the other continent, Pangera, and you have to go like across the ocean. But well, in Throne of Glass, there's an implication that there's a resting realm where you go. So the idea of what might happen is that the horn on Bryce's back and the harp, which is the harp that is one of the dead troves that Nesta finds, could be used to go to that resting realm, because the harp had, I think, 13 something strings, thank you. And each of these strings is like an additional dimension. Like Nesta pulls one and she time travels to the future. She pulls another one and maybe, you know, she could travel to a different dimension. Or no, she pulls one and it's space, so she travels immediately to another space. I don't have my Silver Flames facts right. I only read it once.
Okay.
But the harp could potentially be used if she pulls the forbidden string, so to say, to go to a different realm, maybe to the resting ground. And maybe that's where they will meet some of the dead people from Throne of Glass and Akotar. And this person's idea was, you know, you have like a little bit of a cute moment, like cameo of people, especially of Throne of Glass characters that are dead, like the 13 or the 12, which is and then one of the characters then tells them what they have to do, like a Wayfarer sort of style. But I thought it was a fun little theory in terms of, where are they supposed to go if what happens to them is not what's actually supposed to be happening to them?
I mean, but then I'm also like, why does the boat capsize sometimes? Like, if the island was just made by the Asteri to squeeze power out of people, why would any boats capsize at all? Like, even if somebody sucked, you can still, like, eat them, right? Like, it's not...
I have no idea. Honestly, maybe the Queen of the Ocean is just hungry. And she's like, every couple of whiles, she's like, dang, that's some tasty corpse.
It's like,
makes it
I would
capsize.
like your most eminent trash, thank you.
You don't need this anymore? Oh, thank you.
See, I feel like this is just a, like, outside of the story. I feel like this is just a remnant of Sarah J. Maas thinking to, like, put together so much mythological stuff, making it happen in a city.
Yeah.
Which has everything, where it's like, oh yeah, this, like, idea of the dead going to a literal place where you can find them, but you cannot cross, and some people are unworthy and cannot reach the afterlife. Which, is a popular, like, myth, because, like, dangerous rivers are everywhere, and people were like, damn,
she wanted
that's
to have that
boundary,
river Styx thing going on.
I mean, but they're not the only, like, it's not, Greek mythology is not the only
it's the theme.
place where you have river, right? But out of that, like, it's clear that was the vibe, and she just liked the idea and wanted it, and then later she was like, ooh, but what if the Asteri are also eating the dead people, you know, and you can't even find... But at that point, I'm also like, why could Bryce give up her place in the afterlife for Danica? Like, why would that be possible if they want to squeeze you for juice? You know?
Yeah.
Like, if they benefit from you still existing after your death, why would this even be an option? If they have control over the realm of the dead and, like, the master of the dead, or whatever it was, king of the dead, I don't know. Like, if they have control over that, why allow anyone to slip through your fingers if you can just juice them? Like, right?
he's called the Under King.
The Under King, right.
And the island's called the Bone Quarter.
Yeah.
And the Sleeping City. Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like there are many holes.
There are many holes, and I honestly don't know if they were, like, thought out. Because I could almost imagine her stringing the whole story for Crescent City 1 along over several years. All these ideas she
Yeah.
has. She tries to put them into a book. Some are very successful, some kind of fall flat, but you're like, meh, there are so many other things that I find interesting or, entertaining that I, as a reader, don't really look at them. And while she's done with Crescent City 1. It's out, the manuscript is out, she can't really change much about it, but her brain is like firing at a lightning speed,
Yeah.
like all of these ideas, and she's like, finally I can combine this idea I've had for so long with all of these characters and the Astari, and it would be so cool. So she kind of is like, well, I can bend it in a way where it kind of makes sense. So I feel like that's probably the reason why there's a little bit of a disconnect here. In that regard.
I also see where it comes from. I will agree to disagree.
All right, let's.
It's like, listen, I don't know what Sarah's gonna do. It doesn't make sense from the beginning, so like you can imagine whatever you want. So what's with Bryce and Azriel? I know they've got like matching like friendship bracelet, weapons. They're like.
Listen, this video, I think this is Emily's biggest video, and it truly like sometimes it was like, come on, Emily, but then I was like, oh my god, Emily. I was like roller coaster of emotions during this video. And I think TikTok has like a maximum amount of slides, and I think for like 35, and I think Emily got close to those slides. So let's start. Bryce is obviously connected to the Dusk Court.
Yes.
The way she's been described, but also like thematically, but also like genuine content in the book.
Yeah.
She's described as the gleam of the first stars at nightfall. Nightfall, dusk, makes sense. She dresses and like makes herself, like her makeup, she paints her nails in dusky colors, and not in the sense of, oh, you could call it pale blue. No, a pink, pale something could dusk. No, it's described dusky colors. She is running the only door that she runs through at the end of Crescent City 2 to find, the Astari secrets. There's several doors. She runs through the door called Dusk. So there's obvious connections. Yeah. She's also obviously connected to Prythian. She is the true owner of the Star Sword, the sword of the High King of Prythian. She has a star on her chest that is a beacon to guide the people home to Prythian, and the star shines the brightest in the presence of Fae with a lot of blood connection to the Fae from Prythian. And she has Queen Theia starlight powers, and Theia was the rightful queen of the Starborn Fae in Prythian. So these connections are all very obvious in that regard, and due to some sleuthing, if you remember, Sarah J. Maas for some time had public Pinterest boards until she wiped them completely because people were going crazy. Some of the posts, if not most of them, are still archived. People have screenshots of them. And there was one on this Pinterest board with a picture that was in the Bryce board called Homecoming, of fan art of a figure with red hair, a woman making out with a guy with short black hair. And people were like, maybe that's Azriel. I would like to argue that could also be Hunt.
I was about to say, doesn't Hunt also have...
People are like, it's Azriel. Okay. And this is the Bryce is obviously connected to Prythian. Now, there's an ancient Fae prophecy being said in Crescent City of when knife and sword are reunited, so shall our people be. The sword is obviously the star sword that Bryce has. The knife is Azriel's knife. It's Truth Teller. Now, there is the theory that Azriel is also a starborn Fae. Why? The knife is a starborn weapon since the sword is, and since they're connected, it must be a starborn knife. Starborn Fae, and this is, with the Avalon Fae, shadow powers. The Starborn Fae are also the Fae with shadow powers. Cormac can teleport with shadows. Azriel can use shadows. So it's not too far-fetched that Azriel might be Starborn Fae. Yeah. And when the two weapons at the end of Crescent City connect, like Azriel comes in, he brings Bryce to the inner circle. They start glowing, and the words that are being used are that they match like Alpha and Omega. So obviously these two kind of connect. And the overall...
Of course, people have association with those two words on the internet.
Contain yourself. Honestly. That's... okay, we're just gonna... They will become rulers of the Dusk Court, is the implication here. Since Bryce kind of represents the starlight, the light part, and Azriel, the shadow part. And now here, at first I was like, Emily, where are you going with this? And then I was shook. I was... So, there are these things called beast forms, right? And Akotar, like Feyre, has like the beast form, and then Rhys has his blah blah blah. And there's been contemplation about what the beast forms could be of these other characters. And there was a whole video on this by Emily where she says Bryce's beast form, in her opinion, is a Pegasus unicorn.
Very My Little Pony of her.
For Azriel, the fact is Bryce does collect the little ponies, and it's like a gimmick of hers that this adult woman connects these ponies. So it's kind of a cute wink idea at it. For Azriel, and don't laugh, please don't laugh, okay? This all has a point. Okay. It's being said that it is like a half-slumbering beast from a frozen wasteland. Who is a slumbering beast in a frozen wasteland before they come out of that wasteland to destroy the world? Godzilla. Now,
what?
Don't laugh. No, stop.
You can't say this to me and expect me not to laugh.
And you might be thinking...
Like, what is it? Godzilla. I thought this was a joke and you were going to be like, no, here's the real animal.
No. And you might be thinking, this is completely ludicrous, right? That's what I was thinking. Until I slid to the next slide. And you know what Sarah J. Maas has on her desk? A little Pegasus unicorn, My Little Pony, right next to a Godzilla figure. And she says that she keeps these little things next to her desk as inspiration for writing, and the Pegasus unicorn My Little Pony actually is a Bryce reference. So how far are we from, the Godzilla being Azriel's beast form? At first I was not convinced, but then I saw that and I was like, you know what, Emily, you got me there. That is an odd combination of things to have on your desk.
Maybe a horse girl and a dinosaur boy can get together.
Honestly, it's like a match made in heaven. But we again go back to the big question of what will happen to Hunt, right? Now, there's a lot of slides in which Emily talks...
He'll turn into Godzilla.
There's a lot of slides in which Emily talks
or he'll
about...
become a flying horse.
Will you let me... where the idea is, since she's under contract for so many books, obviously they will not fall in love immediately, and Hunt will just be like, tossed aside. Like, what? You got your slave tattoo back? Well, sorry. I don't date slave boys, and
she was like,
just...
I was about to sacrifice myself for you until my brother came in and was like, no, she's my property. She can't sell herself. Sorry.
So what will happen to Hunt? Well, Idas, he sees Bryce's future, but he still walks up to Hunt and is like, who the fuck are you? So he doesn't see Hunt in Bryce's future, which makes you question, well, why is he not there? Will he die tragically? Will something happen? And one of the theories connected to how the Hunt problem exists in this Bryce Azriel couple future would be that Hunt was bred to hunt the Horn by the Astari. It's said, highly implicated, that the Astari bred Hunt in Crescent City 2, that he's not just, a guy who exists, but he was made for a specific cause. And he was bred to hunt the Horn. The Horn is inside of Bryce. So this attraction towards each other kind of comes from the fact that she's the thing he's supposed to hunt. Now, there's different kind of mates in the Marcyverse, especially due to Crescent City. Bryce also mentions that there's a difference in terms of what are werewolf mates, what are fae mates, what are angel mates. And Hunt and Bryce seem to have like a chosen mates kind of thing going on. They're like, I want to be together with you. It's not the outside that's making us to be together. But we know there's more than one mate. And Azriel could be Bryce's fae mate, and Hunt is her chosen mate. But one thing that made Emily wonder, contemplate, be a little detective, was the fact that the Astari root for them to be together, for Hunt and Bryce. They kind of pushed them together. They're like, they tell Micah, you're gonna do the investigation together. Yeah. We want you to be there together. And if we go and say, all right, the Astari bred Hunt, maybe they made Hunt smell like Azriel, because they're described similar in smell, so that Bryce kind of confuses that, like her inner...
You just say they're described similar in smell, and I'm like, what?
Another sense are similar. So that, the physiology, the underlying hormones, they smell Hunt, they think they're smelling Azriel, and that's also why Bryce is connected, or like attracted to Hunt. And that's, one of the reasons why she's supposedly currently still with the wrong partner, but at the end of Crescent City 2, the first person who finds her is Azriel. Their swords match, and they just fit. So that's the theory of Azriel and Bryce being the big mates, the big new thing.
There's so much to say here. Oh my god. That
is the last phenomenal theory I have for you today.
This is the theory I respect. Someone did their work, okay? I respect it.
This is Emily's magnum opus, I think.
I am like, this deserves a PhD. This is good.
Yeah, I was rooting for that.
This is really good. My first thought when you were like, but they, Ada, he couldn't see Hunt, and I was like, is this gonna be like a Jacob situation from Twilight where all the vampires can't perceive the werewolves, and they're like, wait, but I didn't see you. My magic doesn't work when you're around. But like, I also love the idea that he's like, the Azriel from Target. Like, he's the right? It's like, when you're like, I want McDonald's, and your parents say, and the Astari tell you, no, we've got McDonald's at home, it's like, like, I love the implication of this. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I love the implications that they were also like, how would they know how to manufacture his scent? Like, did they like analyze Bryce and then go like, okay, this is what she's gonna want, let's make this in a lab? Like, what's the how would they know this?
Maybe they did a little, Azriel was sleeping happily in his bed, and one of the Astari came and was like,
but like,
took a little sniff.
But they couldn't, because Bryce speaks a language that hasn't been heard in Prithian in like thousands of years, so the Astari were there a long, long time ago, long before Azriel was born. I mean, I guess you have
It's
like
magic.
future vision. You can have magic future scent. Like, share. I'll believe it. I love this idea. I mean, like, it's not like Hunt's life isn't already sad enough. Because, like, the implication of this is, right, that he is literally just made for a purpose and he will never actually, like, fulfill it satisfactorily without taking something away from Bryce and doing what the people who have tortured him and, like, made him want from him, right? And he's, like, bound to lose always because, like, you don't want the cheap knockoff from Target, you want the real thing, right? And Sarah J. Maas has already, like, demonstrated her absolute, like, preferential treatment of mating bonds, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, Hunt's just fucked. Like, this theory is just like, listen, I've looked at Hunt and I've decided Azriel's just cooler, so, like, fuck Hunt specifically.
This theory to me is also so sad because I for once was happy. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Hunt and Bryce as characters together because I don't have strong emotions connected to either of them. But I for once was happy that we have a couple that says, I want to be with you. And I'm here for the consequences and the pain that will follow. And if Sarah J. Maas was to turn this into, well, fuck you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you want. It's gonna be the mating bond again. It's gonna be this, fated lovers story all over. That would kind of take away from the overall message, I feel, of the previous book's implication to love. But yeah, I Hunt is such a poor boy in all of these theories.
I mean, again, I really I think this is, like, a solid theory. Like, somebody made an effort, they, like, took together all their stuff, they strung up their strings, they cohesively presented it. Like, do I believe it will happen? No, Hunt is too main love interest coded. Like, right? He has the slave tattoo. He was tortured by a woman, probably with some weird erotic, like, subtext. Because you know how it goes in Sarah J. Maas' world. Like, he's a sad boy. He sacrificed himself for Bryce, and, like, she saved him in return. Like, it's all the stuff that goes into the main love interest soup, usually. So, I don't think he's gonna be replaced, because neither Tamlin nor Kael were like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they were, like, first loves, like, but they were also, like, there were ideological things keeping them apart also, fundamentally, ultimately. And, like, Tamlin also just got so much worse.
That's
and, like,
true,
also,
yeah.
Like, ACOTAR is from the setup, from the beginning. Like, Tamlin was never planned to be the main love interest.
Yeah.
Like, and Hunt doesn't feel the same, you know what I mean? Like, they had 2 books of, like, build up where, like, their relationship is obviously the main one. We already have a bunch of guys who, like, look sadly at Bryce while she kisses Hunt because, like, they're like, God, I wish that were me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we already have, like, the gallery of rejected men who, like, wish they could. We already killed, like, the first possible love. Like, we killed Connor right at the beginning. We were like, yeet. Like,
There was a very strange moment in which I was like, is this gonna happen? Where, what's his name? Connor's little brother.
Ethan with an I.
Where I thought, oh my god, are they gonna make Ethan have a crush on Bryce now?
Yeah, they did.
I was like, that's so fucking inappropriate. It's like this whole, especially because he's so hard on her for having rejected his brother and for going out partying, even though the wolves were already like, you're his mate, you know? So
yeah.
him call it trauma bonding or a reaction to trauma, but that all felt very weird. But I do agree with you that it does not really feel like Hunt honestly, is not like, main character love interest.
Like all the
energy.
Like all the other like romantic, like Ethan having a crush on Bryce, like the fake engagement to her cousin, that all has like insane CW Riverdale energy. You know what I mean? It was like drama for romantic drama's sake, but nobody like believed it, right? Like it was like you looked at it and you were like, Ethan doesn't have a chance anyway.
Yeah.
Cormac's not gonna marry her because she's obviously not interested. Like, she obviously wants to fuck Hunt. Like, they're not even an option.
I think Cormac was even not interested in her in that way either.
Yeah.
I think he was...
Yeah, true.
And
his
I mean,
girlfriend
now he's
recently
dead.
died.
So...
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe Tharion could be a potential, fuckboy for her, but even then, I didn't really know
build up.
I didn't really know what to do with Tharion in Crescent City 2 anyways. I hated his chapters.
I mean,
it's like,
also,
gosh.
like, again, like, Bryce and Hunt already had all the, like, standard Sarah J. Maas romance moments for the main romance. Like, they grow together. At first, they hate each other, then they learn more about, like, it's like...
Yeah.
Look at Rowan and Aelin, it's like, oh, at first he thinks she's spoiled and lazy and, like, sucks at everything and he doesn't respect her, and then he learns about her more and then he starts respecting her, and it's like...
He works through his own issues and then...
Yeah, it's like... It is clearly a pattern, and, like, if you look at, like, Throne of Glass, I think it was also... I mean, I can't read minds, but if Throne of Glass had not gotten... like a better reception after Crown of Midnight, and like it would have been confined to 3 books, I also don't think Aelin would have ended up with Chaol. I think she would have married Dorian. Like, I think that was obvious. He was like at first she and Dorian were like, okay, we're just gonna be friends, but like the obvious, like the way it was going, it was obvious that she wasn't gonna stay with Chaol. Like, it wasn't going to work. And in ACOTAR it's the same. It's like, you have her on her way to falling in love with Tamlin, and she sees Rhys once and is like, wow, he's the most beautiful man I've ever seen. Like, right? The vibes are just different. Like, these people were never set up
to be together a long time. Yeah.
The main love interest. Like, they were never going to win. And, like, that's just not the vibe I get from Hunt at all. Hunt is clearly the endgame love interest, which I am interested in what she does with it if, like, Crescent City ends up being more than a trilogy. Because, like, I don't know if she knows what to do with men after, like, all the relationships sorting out. Because, like, most of what happens with Aelin and Rowan after they're, like, together is that they just don't get to see each other in the story anymore. Like, she gets abducted or he has to go do work somewhere else. Like, they don't spend a lot of time together as a result, because it's like all the fun bits already over. So I'm wondering if, like, Hunt was also taken back to, like, his abusive boss because Sarah was like, well, they've already done all the things. Like, I don't know, like, we need to separate them for, like, some angst or something.
Yeah, that's true. So funnily enough, on the German on the German side, it says that Crescent City 1 is the first part of a grand trilogy, but I can't find this information in English right now. So maybe it might just be this one publishing house that says it. It's like, oh, but it's also, going to be a trilogy.
Is there, like, another house? Like,
there is the House of Many Waters. And the thing is, honestly, I had expected the second, in hindsight, looking at
the second should be the House of Many Waters.
Right? There's so much information about Tharion,
I've also heard
about
somewhere,
the Queen.
I think it might even be a comment we got that, like, the House of Many Waters is already a copyrighted book title from a different book series.
Could be.
So she couldn't use that one.
Yeah.
So she had to do Sky and Breath, because I feel like the House of Many Waters also doesn't fit with the naming conventions. Not that A Court of Silver Flames does, but whatever. I'm not a publisher. Fuck it. At least, at least in Throne of Glass, the titles are consistent.
Yeah.
But no.
Considering how much we get,
but I love it. I love this. I mean, I personally myself, as like ACOTAR is just a trilogy to me. In my heart, I still believe Azriel and Lucian should kiss and bond over their
honestly
respective
no
abusive brothers and kill them together. I think they should. This would be very fun.
I'm gonna put in a veto here and say that I like the current situation that Lucian is just fine. He's in his threesome with the guy who was an eyeball and the Firebird lady currently away.
I mean, I don't care about them because they're not really characters, right?
I know, but
story.
I
think it's funny that is where his life is going, though.
Right, the way it's dropped in Silver Flames is so ridiculous.
I don't know how to judge these theories because Sarah J. Maas isn't consistent. There is no thematic reason why Lucian ended up there. It's random. She just thought of something and then used it. So I don't know. I can't say anything about it. But no, I love this because it is unhinged in a way that I think is fun.
So looking at the current board, is there anything you want to change in hindsight?
Thinking. No, I think it's fine the way it is. Yeah.
You think it's fine?
It was smart of you not to make a tier that's what the fuck? Why would you even suggest this?
I thought about what kind of tiers would would work for you.
It was a good choice. These
honestly,
good.
I'm surprised that there actually is a theory in Unhinged, but I like it because I thought you wouldn't like any of these.
No, so. I think the cover conspiracy is cute. It's
yeah, right.
It's it feels like an old school conspiracy where you didn't have a lot of information to go off of, so you saw the cover and you were like, oh, I'm gonna use this to figure out what happens. Yeah. Imagine you tried this with the ACOTAR covers. You'd be like, she wears a different dress this time? Yeah.
Or the new one's even worse. It's okay.
Oh yeah. The new
rose,
ones,
I guess.
They're there's a creature in here? Question mark? What even is on this cover?
Yeah. So
but yeah, I still can't believe they use those colors for the covers. They're so ugly.
Know.
It doesn't fit the vibe at all. I don't understand. The Throne of Glass new covers look really nice. They are really, really nice.
The graphic ones.
They don't quite get the YA vibe across either, but at least they look good. I don't know what they thought with the ACOTAR cover.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
If I had to rank the covers, I'd say Crescent City covers first, then in my opinion, the new Throne of Glass, then the old ACOTAR with the dresses, then the old Throne of Glass, and then
the new ACOTAR.
The new ACOTAR on the last.
I think depending on if we're rating it on just how much we like it and how much I think it makes sense, I would switch the old and new Throne of Glass covers because I think
I know you love the old ones.
I also think they get the YA vibe. You know exactly what you get. You see them and the vibe is exactly what's inside. You have cool girl boss who fights, you know? It really gets the vibes. And I also think that the old ACOTAR covers get the vibe. It's you have a girl who wears pretty dresses and there's also fighting and it's a thorny thing.
It's a thorny thing? Alex Astor in the house?
Thing, yeah. There might even be some yolks involved somewhere. I don't know.
It's if they ever make new covers for Lightlark, it's just gonna be an egg.
Lightlark, you just have a falling egg. What does Nightbane get? The egg's just broken now, I guess.
What does Nightbane
Failed
get?
omelette. Like, I don't know.
Just a very thematic, dramatic picture of Oro leaving the bedroom for the 5th time.
Or it's just like, you know, you just get like a floating drop of some sort of substance that's supposed to be the Nightbane, you know, the drug.
The flower that the Nightbane is made of. You could use a flower. That would be cute. We're getting off track.
We're off track. Yeah, this is unrelated now.
If you could, I mean, obviously you have some in the higher tiers and some in lower tiers. If you could choose, which of these theories would you genuinely like to see, no matter how ridiculous, in the book, in the 3rd book?
Honestly, I think the funniest thing to happen was if we got both Master Manipulator Rhys and like Bryce and Azriel. Like, if we got both of these, that would be so. And the funniest would be if Aelin also showed up. Like, I think that would be the funniest thing you could possibly write. Like, it would be batshit insane, and I would like. I would think it was funny.
I have to say, yeah. I mean, I said it's one of my favorite theories. Villain recent is if that was to happen.
Honestly,
I would read that book quick.
I would also really like to see Bryce shift into a flying horse and also Azriel shift into Godzilla, because I think it would be very funny for her to try and describe this in a way that doesn't sound silly. Like, can you imagine? That would be so funny.
I mean, I'm one of the people, I'm not alone in this, but I'm one of the people who thought that Feyre fights against a gigantic ringworm at the end of ACOTAR. So, I guess she could use some practice describing bigger things. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening to this. We hope you're just as excited for Crescent City 3 as we are. As I am. I'm gnawing at the bars of my enclosure. I hope this time there's not a book shortage in Germany, because last year that's what happened. I got mine on time, but a lot of my friends didn't.
Yeah, you were got mine, fuck you.
Yeah, so I hope the same thing, at least for me, happens again this year. And you can be excited to wait for a Crescent City video that we at least want to do in the style of our Nightbane video. So you're on track for some shitty
I am so excited
again.
To hear about what kind of unhinged shit goes down and
I'm so excited to read it.
Like, I will probably never read a Sarah J. Maas book actually again, but I do love hearing about what happens in them, because it's like it gets weirder with every iteration.
Yeah.
Like, Throne of Glass was very grounded compared to whatever's happening now. Like, it's really gone. Like, she's diving down into the abyss slowly. Like, it's getting interesting.
I found for me it's the same way like with Riverdale. First I watched Riverdale in earnest, then I watched it like as a joke, and then by the end I watched it in earnest again, because it was like the show just keeps on giving. And it's the same with Sarah J. Maas's books.
Yeah.
By now I'm reading them with the full intention of being like, this is crazy and I'm here for it. But it's also bad. But,
yeah, I feel like it really is just like she hands the manuscripts in too late, or the editors just don't get to do much anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is, but like I feel like her writing can't have changed that much. I feel like it's more likely that the editing is really like to blame here.
Well, we'll find out soon enough. That being said, again, thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.